You know, a detour before going to Kirby doesn't hurt, right? And a small detour indeed, as this next game should be the last thing to cover hopefully before finally getting to the pink puffball, as what we have here is something special. Yeah, Elsie's the name and that's the game for today. A Mega Man and Metroidvania-like style platformer that I swear, if I had a nickel for every time I played an indie platformer for the channel with the same DNA, I think I would have like 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's certainly not a coincidence either. While it's not a secret that most of my reviews tend to lean towards franchises we know and love, every now and then I am intrigued by the few indie titles that are out there, and Elsie here is no different in that regard. I know a lot of you guys out there really want me to play games like Hollow Knight and Hades, trust me on that, but I think it's best for me to kind of test the waters when it comes to this side of the gaming industry with games like 30XX as I did it before, and also with Elsie here. But before we do talk about this game some more, I want to say right off the bat that this game was provided for me as a review code from the folks themselves at Night Shift Games. That's sort of a disclaimer here. While I have never heard of these guys before, I'm so sorry Night Shift, I knew there was something about them that had me wanting to try out Elsie and see things for myself. I like to believe it was because of the first few gameplay trailers that showcased the vast colorfulness and attention to sprite work detail that made me salivate at the idea of wanting to play this game. For some form of a metaphor there, I guess. Looking at some of their older footage too, you can see that this game was taken into serious consideration in making a game that would pop out at the player, and it's funny seeing that the earlier designs of Elsie with a high boots and shorts combo. Man, that was definitely a phase. Also, don't judge her. But the gameplay itself was pretty fascinating, and as a Mega Man fan, I know I needed to indulge in this game some more, and you know what? I'm happy to say that I'm glad I did. With that in mind, I think it's best we just go right into the action here and see what Elsie is really all about, since this game is fairly new and all, starting with, of course, a story synopsis. Elsie kicks things off with one Dr. Gray, who created a series of androids known as the Guardians, all in order to protect the world and establish a new world utopia called Neo Arcadia, a place where Reploids and humans can safely coexist. Wait a minute, that was actually from the wrong script. Hold on. There we go. In actuality, Dr. Gray created the Guardians to help protect the world from the Arc-like core, a sort of power source that basically powers up the whole planet? Man, and I thought the live stream of Final Fantasy VII was something else. But suddenly, the Guardians would disappear without a trace, and because of it, would cause massive destruction to the natural state of the world. Good lord. Having Dr. Gray to seek refuge at a nearby wharf, then create one final android to stop the threat. That android would later become Elsie, the main protagonist of our journey, who seeks to find the Guardians and protect the Arc-like core from those who wish to seek its power. Sounds pretty simple, but wait, it gets better. As Elsie finds each Guardian, she slowly learns the truth behind their disappearance, resulting in their memory systems somehow being hijacked by a more sinister evil that will later eventually be revealed to be the real Elsie. Huh? What in the Mega Man 03 is this? Yeah, so it turns out the actual threat was the daughter of Dr. Gray, Elsie, who, after experimenting too much with the Arc-like core, basically fused with it, resulting in a manifestation of her former self that the Elsie we play as ends up throwing hands and somehow saves the day. And the ending's kinda weird. After beating Arc-like Elsie and showing her the errors of her ways, we managed to leave the Arc-like core unscathed, and the Guardians are no longer attached to the energy source, resulting in its decommissioned state, and Dr. Gray once again reuniting with her daughter, knowing that finally the day is all saved. Wait, who the fuck is this guy? Who cares? A pretty straightforward plot if you ask me, at least based from what I've gathered, and I like to say that there is more to it than just go find the Guardians and fight them. It's more of your typical Mega Man storyline where you are going from stage to stage to find the robot master, if you will, and beat them to a pulp, all to learn more of the overarching evil plan. But Elsie makes it enjoyable because of her personality. She is constantly hyping herself up in combat with little quips in enemy rooms, even throwing a good jab here and there with some of her Guardian sisters. It's great and easily the best thing about the story. I'll never crack up about the encounter with Squad Thunder and their sort of nerdy way of introducing themselves, all while Elsie is having the "but bitch please" look on her face. It was legit straight out of an anime, and that's the feeling I get with the dialogue and character interactions. And here's the other thing too, the cast is a large female pool, and it's one of the biggest ones I've seen in all my years of playing video games. While I'm no stranger to the main character being the female lead, seeing a whole cast worth is refreshing, and it reminded me a lot of Charlie's Angels, except except there are 9 of them. It's a great feeling, and I think that works to the game's benefit in both story and also identity. They each stand out on their own, and the dialogue they have with Elsie, while very cliche in retrospect, is something that legit I had a fun time watching. It reminded me of the times when I would watch Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds or Bakugan back on Cartoon Network as a kid. It's that sort of feeling. Voice acting helped a lot in this department, especially ensuring I wasn't bored out of my mind and bringing something special to the table regarding each character we met. I will say there are some sour points with the story regarding certain plot points and their resolutions, as despite beating the Guardians and getting them back to normal, they sort of hint too much and reveal too little. The first case of this was Elsie's backstory, as they make it seem like it's some sort of a big deal for Elsie to even exist based on the Frost Guardian Trishula calling her a dead girl inside a robot shell, and my immediate reaction was, oh, are we going there? Is Elsie the dead daughter of Dr. Gray? I mean, they have the same characteristics and all. Perhaps as sort of a last-minute effort, she decided to rescue her daughter and rebuild her into the Elsie we know now. Nope, no, that's not what happened at all. They went nowhere with this plot point, immediately saying that while Elsie may look like Dr. Gray's daughter, bitch, that's not even close, she is nothing but that, and honestly, I was a little bit disappointed. Towards the end, when we do learn that the real Elsie is alive and kicking, my mind went to thinking of the possibility of this being something like that of Mega Man 03, where Zero learns that he is a copy of the original who happens to be Omega. Something of the sort is done here, but there's no repercussion to it by the end, or at the very least they didn't give it enough time to properly stew because they bring the idea to the table, but Elsie just brushes off the fact like it was a random thing. Hell, for as much praise as I can give the Guardians in their designs and boss fights, they're very one-noted. They don't give much of a challenge to Elsie when you encounter them respectively, and their dialogues with them after the fact are so bare bones that I don't remember much out of them. I mean, I like Rosalind, there's that because she was the first Guardian I faced, and she reminded me a lot of Axel the Rose back from Mega Man X5, if that counts for anything. Trishula was more of the investment of the story and all, and she made me do a double take when she said a line straight out of Let It Go from Frozen. I thought that was pretty funny.
The cold never bothered me anyway.
But the others, well, I mean, they didn't really catch my eye. I can understand that they didn't want to push too much of the narrative since this is an indie game at the end of the day, but seeing how much unique the cast of characters are already, I wish they had done more with them to get more of a reaction out of me towards the end. As I said already, this is an indie game that recently released, so I think with possible traction and perhaps a DLC of sorts down the line, we could potentially see more of what the story has to offer in regards to Elsie and the gang here. Enough story time though, let's get down to business with the gameplay. So first thing I noticed right off the bat was that as soon as I started playing the game, I was immediately greeted by a hub world, and I was like, okay, well this game did say it was like a Metroidvania, so does this mean I start here and move my way around like a Metroid game? Is that what you want me to do, right? Nope. Once I finished meandering through the area, the realization slowly began to hit me because it was like a sudden flash of deja vu from back when I first played 30XX, and from that brain blast was when I said to myself, oh fuck, this isn't what I thought it was gonna be. This game is actually a roguelike platformer, and it wasn't until after I got my ass beat in the first stage that I was slowly coming to that reality. After my third death and wondering what was even going on, I went back to the trailers and saw in the corner of my eye that this game was indeed a roguelike action platformer. It even said in the trailers in bold text. How did I miss that? You tell me. I don't think I say this often enough, but I'm not the biggest fan of roguelike games. Not to say that they're bad or anything, okay? Don't you start that in the comments. But it's because they're not really my cup of tea at the moment, and you know, you have to understand that I'm mostly a platformer, action adventure, and RPG kind of guy. It's for the same reason why, if you look back at my 30XX review, I played that game in its Mega Mode setting, where it was just a traditional Mega Man game with the added perks of the upgrade and parts system that you would find in a roguelike setting. But since this game doesn't have anything like that, it's probably telling me to just experience a proper roguelike, and you know what? I manned up and just did that. To some degree, I should stress. But to start with the basics here, well, if you are a fan of Mega Man, then honestly I have nothing much to say other than it's what you can expect from those games. Mega Man X specifically. Elsie has her trusty piece with her to shoot, and she can dash and cause damage as well as invincibility frames to avoid enemies and obstacles. You even have this stomp attack that is similar to Sonic's, if you could believe it, causing a cool AoE blast when you land on the ground or bounce on an enemy's head like you're Mario or something. And there's this nifty parry ability that helps to block attacks and work as a counter that I never fully pulled off right at times, but the animation to it is actually pretty stellar. It's like a sonic boom happened and Elsie is now ready to party. Elsie even has a Guardian trigger ability that acts as a stat buffer like that you would see out of a Devil May Cry with the double trigger, allowing Elsie to do powerful blows while also having a fair share of unlimited parries, which I definitely used a lot for boss encounters. It's a saving grace since spamming the damn thing can cause great damage to the bosses, making the fight end in less than a minute if you know how to properly use it. As a whole though, the platforming is just the greatest there is in Elsie, but the one thing I did have to get used to was the meter you have to do for the basic attacks. Unlike X or Samus, your abilities are severely limited, and Elsie has this energy meter that allows you to do the basic gameplay of running and shooting that can increase the more you go through your run. Like I said, I had to get used to this because Mega Man games don't have you conserving energy even to get rid of the basic enemies, but Elsie doesn't punish you severely for just being an idiot and button mashing the attack button. In a way, think of it like Dark Souls, where if you know how to use your stamina meter right, then it's the same concept with Elsie here. I just made a Dark Souls comparison. Who the hell am I now? IGN? The tight controls are fun as well, though sometimes I had to fight with them because there were moments when Elsie just had a mind of her own. Elsie, we're supposed to go this way. Stop trying to back away from this fight. You're in too deep, damn it. In fact, bugs were prevalent during my time with this game to the point where it was purely comical. Like I'm talking almost Looney Tunes type shit. They're mostly minor stuff like the walking Elsie bit I just did, and other times the game didn't somehow register the animation whenever I did jumps and wall climbing, like it felt like Elsie did a fucking T-pose in midair. Sometimes after beating a boss, you can have your parry wheel activated for no reason, and other times you just get swamped with the in-game currency that you barely even see Elsie from the thick of it. Witness and even be amazed at the no clip of me being stuck to the walls. I managed to do this once and had to bear witness to the game's own implosion as I couldn't even get out of it no matter how hard I tried. This was in an underwater segment too, and that had me anxious until I was reminded of the Sonic drowning theme and I just had to die right there for the sake of a bit. Another time was towards the end of the game where the final stage is an enemy gauntlet, and because of performance issues of having too many projectiles and enemies coming right at you, I no-clipped again and soft-locked myself at one of the portals, and this one hurts my soul. Especially since this was recorded close to midnight with zero sleep from the previous night, so I just sat there and accepted my defeat like a man, after crying in the corner for about an hour. But I guess the game felt bad for me afterwards because during the Elsie fight, she got stuck in a corner of her own and I reaped my rewards right there. Haha, I'm the superior daughter, suck it. By the time this video is out for you guys to watch, I know that they're gonna be patched and ready to go on that front, but it's not like it's my first time experiencing bugs in a video game. Trust me, I played Mega Man X6, Sonic 06, and Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. I know exactly what I'm doing here. Besides those moments, the controls do make Elsie feel grounded and balanced as you're mad dashing and blasting through enemies. In a way, it reminds me a lot of Mega Man X4 and the Zero games because of that. It's one of the best things I like about Elsie too, on top of that art style they have here as well. The game looks gorgeous, with a nice vibrant colors and background details that made going through it all the more enjoyable, seeing that we are truly in parts unknown. Be it a cityscape where winds have torn through it to a botanical garden filled to the brim with wildlife which would give Poison Ivy a hard on, this game makes you feel like the journey is truly larger than life. There's even this cool city area called Circuit City that even has a Spark Mandrill reference from Mega Man X. That's a cool Easter egg if you ask me, outside of the heart containers you can find, as well as this E-Slush in the weapons depot in the hub world. That, and also check out the Sigma head and the background details for the final stage too. They really paid homage to Mega Man X here, didn't they? My favorite location was the fire stage. What was it called again? Forge Master's Cavern or something? I don't know. I can't really place it at the top of my head right now, but I do love the oozing lava that flows as stage hazards. There's even a nice foreground and background details that just pop in a way that it doesn't leave you feeling like you're a taste of a rainbow from the saturation, which is great for me since I'm not a big fan of overly saturated games. Similar to 30XX, Elsie has a design philosophy of going to the classics like Mega Man and Metroid when it comes to art direction, and I like that on both fronts. In case it wasn't that obvious, Elsie reminded me of the X series with how visually stunning it looked, and that is something that adds major benefits to this game's identity. Plus, Elsie is one hell of a character design too, easily recognizable, and I wouldn't be surprised to see her as a Smash Assist trophy if there's ever a Smash game in the near future. This is how I felt throughout the whole game, at least from a platforming perspective, because considering this game is also a roguelike, we also have to talk about those elements too now, don't I? Listen, in case you couldn't tell, my mentality with Elsie was mostly viewing it as a platformer rather than also being a roguelike. I don't mind the attempt of running it back and learning from your mistakes, and as a Dark Souls fan, I relish that opportunity to try out and pick things up from where I left off. Elsie does more than enough to make each run easier, and I understand the appeal of it as the more runs you do, the more upgrades and power-ups you get to make things easier, giving a pace that is relatively adjustable if you never played this type of game before. But the thing is, my rose-tinted lens was shifted to seeing this as a Mega Man game, and the roguelike elements was sort of a hindrance because my dumbass did not want to accept that. So what I did was, most of the time, I ended up turning on the invincibility feature, and every time I died and had to repeat the stages, I turned that bad boy on and collected the parts I needed for when I was the most comfortable to play the game normally. I understand this is a very cheap shot at the game, and I do apologize for it, but as I have to deal with so many projects at the moment, by the time I'm even making this video, I had to find ways to mitigate the process while also enjoying my time. Also, remember that cool android in the end credits of the game? Well, it turns out he is also a playable character that you randomly unlock during the final bits of the game, but goes by the name of Andrew. He's the melee weapon option to bring more flavor to the platforming action, sort of making him the 0 to Elsie's X regarding upgrades and weapon choice. There's nothing really special about his combo game though, as it's the same 1, 2, 3 combo strike, and he doesn't have many upgrades that give him something similar to Zero's arsenal in the X games. And it's pretty weak too, because he takes away so much meter in his attacks and their animations are sluggish as hell. I know it would be a detriment to compare Andrew to Zero regarding the skills and upgrades you can get here with the edgy robot, but I wish they took notes of the X games some more and gave Andrew more to do with a basic combat, or that upgrades would be more for expanding his moveset to deal with more blows. In fact, now that I think about it, you're better off doing this with Elsie because this game was mostly built with her run and gun action in mind. Andrew, while cool and all, doesn't strike me as a character I would want to play more as, but perhaps future runs could convince me with the idea, or maybe like DLC or a sequel could help to benefit his end of the deal. Despite my phobia of roguelikes though, I still enjoyed the upgrades and part system this game provides. As you progress through your runs, the chances of unlocking new items and people to meet at the wharf increases, allowing new perks to again make those runs easier to manage. Whether it's more health pickups and upgrades, additional bonuses and dash attacks and parries, to even just getting better luck, yes that is a thing, this is something I think most will find enjoyment out of in terms of Elsie. Again, as someone who never fully tapped into the ring of roguelikes, I still have Hades sitting in the backlog as is, you know, in terms of that. I like how this is the closest I have been to experiencing one despite playing footsies with the difficulty. And with the characterization of the NPCs you meet in the wharf, this doesn't feel like you're going to just get these upgrades and dip out, but you actually feel like Elsie is heading to their shop and spending some time with them before heading out on another adventure. I especially love this big tall boy right here named Hebby, who helps to restore bonfires and upgrade counters and stages that help bring more to the punch. And he's just standing there not having a care in the world, even reminding me of those inflatable tube dummies you see in old car dealers. From food to purchase for added bonuses to even a weaponsmith to get extra skills to test out, legit, the more I unlocked and tried out new stuff for runs, the more this game sort of gave me a tease of what's to come for if I do ever get down to play Hades or any other roguelike in general. My favorite upgrade as I went along was always the boomerang dash, where you summon this boomerang every time you dash through the stage, and if you upgrade it fully, you can summon up to 3 of them. That's sick as fuck. Perfect for mowing down enemies, and every time I have the chance to pick it up, it's my day one upgrade no matter what. Another one I really enjoyed was the firefly summons, because these little Navi looking guys pack serious heat since they auto aim to the nearest enemy, and if you spawn dozens of them, they'll legit jump on a boss because that's what they do. They see a target and will go for it thinking it's the biggest lantern in existence. And the bosses, man, am I surprised I didn't talk about these guys sooner. They're the standard boss at mid-boss encounters, but I like their designs and some of them are my favorites because of how wacky they are. I will say that Night Shift may have overdid themselves with the hazards these guys have, because the Sun and Moon bosses in the Skyport love to throw these lasers at you, and without the invincibility feature, you're going to be figuring out what to even do because it just clears the entire stage. But the Guardians were legit fun bosses though, and brought that spark of Mega Man without steering too much of that formula, since after beating them, you don't get any special weapons from them and they actually pack a punch if you're not careful. The Elsie boss fight towards the end, minus her being stuck to the wall, was a solid final boss encounter and easily one of my favorites in this game. If I have to wrap all of this up in a neat little nutshell of sorts, I would say that Elsie definitely merits an experience of sorts because it has great stuff here, don't get me wrong about that. And for an indie game, honestly, that's like the greatest blessing you can give it. I really enjoyed Elsie, both as a game and a concept, because I can see this game branch out and hopefully become something like Shovel Knight. There's an identity here that I hope Night Shift Games take into consideration in the events they ever make a sequel for Elsie, and if they do, well, you know I'm ready to get that game day one. Art design is perfect, the combat is somewhat immaculate since it takes some time to get used to, and the overall appeal to this game is aces. I'll definitely spend a lot of time off screen to perfect my runs and hopefully embrace the cycle of death and fully play this game accordingly, but even with my little nuances here and there, I had a blast and I hope you all could see that in the end. I can't recommend this game enough, so I do hope you get this game because it's not expensive either. It's only 20 bucks and the best 20 bucks you'll spend too. Hell, while you're at it, go get 30XX because it's also just as good in that genre, and Mega Man shooters in general are just a blast to experience anyways, so yeah, you're definitely not gonna regret this one. I think now we can kind of close this small chapter for good, and hopefully with enough love and support on this video, it will probably give me enough confidence to play other indie games like Rolling Rascal that's up and coming, Spark the Electric Jester. I know a lot of the Sonic fans want me to try that, as well as Freedom Planet, and of course Hades and Hollow Knight. I know you guys really want me to play those games. Trust me, I will make videos on that down the line at some point in the near future, but considering now that Elsie kind of left me with a Mega Man-like mindset going, I think I'm gonna have to put off Kirby for a while, as the next time I plan to do videos, it'll be with the Mega Man Zero series. Yeah, this series actually is one of my favorites of the Mega Mans. I'm actually very excited to talk about this, so next time I see you with a video, it will be starting with Mega Man Zero 1, and we'll work our way towards that franchise. So thank you guys so much for watching this one. Again, thank you so much Night Shift Games for a review code. Definitely enjoyed my time with this, as evident with this video here. Love you all as always to 120. Stay safe and sexy out there. Do good into the world. Peace out and take care. I feel bad for the Kirby fans right now. They really wanted me to talk about Superstars Ultra.